Desalination plants. They transform seawater into fresh, drinkable water. And sometimes these facilities are so big, they process billions of gallons of water every day. So, I'm gonna count down 15 of the largest desalination plants. Starting with number 15, the Minjur plant in India. The Minjur seawater desalination plant, which is near Chennai in the state of Tamil Nadu in India, is one of the largest desalination plants in South Asia. It's located around 19 miles or 30 kilometers to the north of Chennai, and this plant plays an important role dealing with the region's water scarcity, with a design capacity to produce 26.5 million gallons, or about 100 million liters of potable water per day. It was commissioned in July of 2010. This Minjur plant was built as a public-private partnership between the Chennai Metropolitan Water Supply and the Sewerage Board, and it was built at a cost of around $70 million, and it was the first major desalination facility in the country. Now, this plant uses reverse osmosis technology. That's one of the most efficient and widely used methods for desalination. This process involves drawing seawater from the Bay of Bengal, pre-treating it to remove any large particles and impurities, and then passing it through a high-pressure membrane. Now, these membranes filter out the dissolved salts and other contaminants, producing clean, drinkable water. Within the plant's designs were energy recovery devices to improve its efficiency. Desalination is an energy-intensive process, and the use of these helps reduce the overall energy consumption by reusing energy from the high-pressure brine steam. The Minjur plant is hugely important to Chennai, as the city is known as the Detroit of India because of its automobile industry has experienced growth. It provides a trusted alternative water source, particularly during dry spells when fresh water sources such as reservoirs and rivers fall short of meeting demand. It also proved to be surprisingly reliable, even managing to withstand the devastating Cyclone Varda in 2016, and it was able to resume operations shortly after the storm. Number 14, the Adelaide Desalination Plant in Australia. The Adelaide Desalination Plant, which is in Lonsdale, South Australia, is an important piece of infrastructure that was built to secure water for Adelaide. It's a reverse osmosis facility with a maximum capacity of about 26 billion gallons or 100 billion liters of potable water each year, which is the equivalent to around half of Adelaide's water needs. The idea for this plant came from a period of difficulty between 1997 and 2009, when South Australia experienced one of its worst droughts in recorded history. The event significantly impacted the water levels in the Murray-Darling Basin, Adelaide's main water source, and with rainfall patterns becoming increasingly unpredictable, the state government committed to building the plant. The project began in 2008 and construction completed in 2012 at a cost of around $1.1 billion, making it one of the most expensive desalination facilities ever built. The plant takes its water from the Gulf of St. Vincent for its reverse osmosis process, and it's designed to operate with as little impact as possible. The intake and outfall systems are engineered to reduce any harm to the marine ecosystem there, with careful monitoring systems in place to ensure that the brine discharge doesn't affect the local biodiversity. The high cost of its construction, though, and the operation triggered debates about its viability, especially with the fact that it was completed after the end of the millennium drought, with critics calling it a white elephant. Well, for several years after it opened, the plant operated at reduced capacity. However, those in favor of it point out that its true value lies in being able to provide a reliable water source during future droughts. It's also gone on to play a role in water management beyond immediate supply needs. It allows for greater flexibility in water management. It's this dual purpose of meeting urban water demand and supporting environmental sustainability that is central to South Australia's long-term water planning. Number 13, the Chatuka Ait Bahad Desalination Plant in Morocco. The Chatuka Ait Bahad Desalination Plant in Morocco is a landmark project found in the Susamasa region near Agadir. It's the largest seawater desalination facility in the world that combines desalination for both drinking water and irrigation. Now, the region faces issues from the over-extraction of groundwater, which has led to its aquifers being depleted, along with the efforts of climate change that have worsened rainfall reliability and prolonged droughts. Something needed to be done, and the plant was built to secure water supplies for both urban populations and agricultural lands. Construction began in 2018. It was finished by 2021, and the facility uses advanced reverse osmosis technology to produce up to 72.6 million gallons, or about 275 million liters of desalinated water each day. Of this, about 39 million gallons or 150 million liters is designated for drinking water to serve nearly 2.3 million people, while the remaining amount is allocated for irrigation and is used to water around 34,000 acres of farmland. This plant is a collaborative approach that enabled the mobilization of resources and expertise needed for these large-scale complex projects without putting as much reliance on public funds to make it possible. Other countries are now investigating how to do similar things themselves, and this plant in particular has become a case study for other arid and semi-arid regions that face similar challenges. Number 12. Victorian Desalination Plant in Australia. The Victorian Desalination Plant, which is in the southeastern Australian state of Victoria, is a major infrastructure project that was developed to improve the region's water security. As the largest facility in Australia, it can produce up to 39 billion gallons or 150 billion liters of potable water each year, which accounts for about a third of the water that's needed across Melbourne. Completed in 2012, it was another one that was built in response to the Millennium Drought, which was a severe and prolonged dry spell that revealed vulnerabilities in the region's water supply system. The state government initiated the desalination plant project in 2007. Now, it uses a reverse osmosis technology to turn seawater from the Bass Strait into high-quality drinking water. From the start, it was designed to operate with as little environmental impact as possible, such as using 100% renewable energy for its operation. Now, this is done through a combination of wind and solar energy offsets, ensuring that the plant's operations don't contribute to any greenhouse gas emissions. But despite the advanced design and capacity, the plant has been a source of considerable controversy. The cost of building it almost doubled to more than $3 billion, so it became far more expensive than most other plants. This was a big problem for the several years after it opened, when the plant was placed on standby as water levels in Victoria's reservoirs began to recover after the drought. The unpredictable nature of change and population growth in Melbourne and surrounding regions, however, make the plant a crucial component of their water security, and it's already now been relied on to keep water available. While there may no longer be the appetite to invest so heavily in desalination plants in Australia, the presence of several have greatly improved the ability to manage water supplies. Number 11. Magtad Desalination Plant in Algeria. The Magtad Desalination Plant is near Oran in northwestern Algeria, and after being commissioned in 2014, it has a production capacity of 132 million gallons, or 500 million liters of drinkable water per day, which is a massive addition to what the country can provide from natural sources. Water scarcity has long been a major issue for the country, particularly in coastal and urban areas where most of the population is concentrated. The government launched a water strategy in the early 2000s which emphasized desalination as a leading solution to the country's troubles. This facility is enormous, but it was built with a modular design that means it doesn't have to be fully functional at all times, and that parts can be taken offline for maintenance without interrupting operations. Historically, it was reliant on groundwater and inconsistent rainfall, but this plant has now provided a reliable and consistent water supply, so it's reduced dependence on overexploited aquifers. One of the hurdles to building this plant, though, is the extreme cost. So, in similar ways to what's happened in other countries, the project was developed under a public-private partnership model. The private company Hyflux built the plant, but also manages its operations under a 25-year water purchase agreement with the Algerian government. And hopefully that ensures that the plant delivers high-quality water while sticking to strict performance standards. This model, in fact, has proven to be so successful that plans are underway to build further desalination plants in the country and to upgrade the distribution networks, with the hope that water will be available to the people, no matter what the future consequences of any changes may be in desert regions. Number 10. The Az-Zawar Desalination Plant in Kuwait. The Az-Zawar Desalination Plant is a hugely important part of the country's water supply infrastructure. It's around 62 miles to the south of Kuwait City. This state-of-the-art facility is part of the Az-Zawar South Complex, which also includes power generation plants. Kuwait, which is at the northern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, receives very little rainfall, and it doesn't have many groundwater reserves, with the ones that are there mainly being saline. This all means that desalination has been the main source of fresh water for decades. This plant was developed under a public-private partnership framework, and it was the first time that approach had been used in the country. This facility uses multi-stage flash distillation technology, which is one of the more commonly used methods in the Gulf region. In this process, seawater is heated and then passed through a series of chambers where it evaporates and condenses into fresh water. The MSF technology is well suited to Kuwait's requirements because of its ability to handle high salinity levels. The plant has a production capacity of 128 million gallons or 468 million liters of water per day. The facility takes excess heat from electricity generation to power the desalination process, which does reduce energy costs and improves its efficiency a bit. But there have been difficulties though, especially with desalination being done at that scale with that method. The brine byproduct that's produced, which is highly concentrated saline solution, has become increasingly difficult to deal with, and it poses risks to marine ecosystems if not carefully managed. Kuwait has tried to implement measures to reduce the effects, but studies have shown that it's already had a detrimental and potentially irreversible impact. Number 9. Carlsbad Desalination Plant in the U.S. The Carlsbad Desalination Plant, which is in Carlsbad, California, is the largest desalination facility in the United States and an important component of Southern California's water infrastructure. Officially opened in December of 2015, this plant helps to deal with the region's water scarcity by converting seawater from the Pacific into potable water. With a production capacity of around 50 million gallons or 190 million liters a day, it supplies water to around 400,000 residents in San Diego County. The project was first suggested during one of California's most severe droughts, when the state faced pressures on its water sources due to over-reliance on imported water and a growing population. Historically, Southern California has depended heavily on water transported from the Colorado River and Northern California by extensive aqueduct systems. But these sources have become increasingly unreliable because of environmental concerns, competing demands, and reduced availability. The Carlsbad Desalination Plant was seen as a drought-proof solution to diversify the region's water sources. It was built in a public-private partnership model and was spearheaded by Poseidon Water, which is a private company that specializes in this infrastructure. This approach allowed the project to proceed without any direct public funding, which has taken away any financial risks for local taxpayers, while ensuring the region benefits from a modern desalination facility. Energy consumption here is arguably the biggest problem, as desalination is an energy-intensive process. To offset its carbon footprint, the plant purchases renewable energy credits and supports projects aimed at reducing emissions, but this doesn't change the fact that it has a detrimental impact. Future designs, though, will of course need to improve on this, such as by fully using renewable energy. But as a test case of how effective a desalination plant can be for water supply, it has been very successful. Number 8. Shuaibah 3 Desalination Plant in Saudi Arabia. The Shuaibah 3 plant, which is on the Red Sea coast to the south of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, is part of Saudi Arabia's large desalination plant network. It was commissioned in 2009, and it's part of a much bigger complex that includes power gen facilities that provide the energy needed for it to operate. This plant uses that multiple stage flash distillation process and reverse osmosis technology by combining thermal membrane based on desalination methods to optimize output. Now, by integrating these techniques, the facility is able to produce up to 230 million gallons or 880 million liters of potable water per day. Saudi Arabia has for a long time faced significant water challenges. Natural freshwater sources such as groundwater are limited and becoming increasingly depleted. Desalination has become a leading solution as part of the kingdom's water strategy, with plants like the Shuaibah 3 providing a reliable way of meeting rising demand. The facility produces fresh water and electricity, with the excess heat from power production being used to drive the desalination process, which improves its efficiency. And furthermore, the plant was another that was developed under a public-private partnership. The water produced here supplies far more than just households and industries. It's also relied upon to support the kingdom's religious and tourism sectors. Mecca, which is near the plant, attracts millions of pilgrims each year from the Hajj and Umrah. Providing a consistent water supply for these visitors, it's critical. The plant's just been one part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 strategy, which is looking to diversify the economy and reduce its dependence on oil. It's also helping the kingdom become the world's largest producer of desalinated water, showing that investment in the right areas can overcome localized issues in a more environmentally friendly way. Moving on to number 7, the Sorek Desalination Plant in Israel. Israel's Sorek desalination plant is on the Mediterranean coast, and it was officially commissioned in 2013, and it became the world's largest seawater reverse osmosis desalination plant at the time. It's got the ability to produce around 165 million gallons or 624 million liters of fresh water per day, which accounts for around 20% of the country's water consumption. It uses reverse osmosis technology, which is where semi-permeable membranes are used to remove salts and impurities from seawater. Now, a key difference here in its design is the use of a 16-inch diameter membrane instead of the standard 8-inch ones that are used in most facilities. This larger size reduces energy consumption and operational costs, while the vertical arrangement of these membranes reduces the plant's overall physical footprint. Now, huge consideration was put towards environmental responsibility in the plant's operation. Its intake system is located around 1.5 miles offshore, reducing the impact on ecosystems by limiting the effect on any organisms there. Brine discharge is managed through careful dilution and dispersion back into the sea to limit any impact. This plant's success has also led to further advancements in desalination, and recently plans have been put forward for Sorek 2, which is an even larger facility. This expected expansion shows Israel's need to stay at the forefront of desalination technology and establish its position as a global leader in water management techniques. Number 6. Al Quwain Desalination Plant in the UAE. The Al Quwain Desalination Plant, which is in the northern emirate of Al Quwain in the United Arab Emirates, is one of the most advanced projects in the region. As the UAE faces the challenges of a growing population and limited natural fresh water sources, this plant is part of the country's efforts to ensure a sustainable and reliable supply for the future. It's got a production capacity of 180 million gallons, or about 681 million liters per day. The plant is one of the largest reverse osmosis facilities in the world and provides water to several emirates. The project was developed as a collaboration between UAE's Federal Electricity and Water Authority and ACWA Power, which is a Saudi-based developer of energy and water projects. It was built at an estimated cost of around $600 million. This plant was completed on schedule, and part of plans to reduce reliability on fossil fuels, the plant has integrated renewable energy to reduce any carbon footprint. This plant now plays an important role in improving water security in the UAE, which is a country where demand for water is projected to increase. The plant supplies high-quality potable water to millions of residents and businesses across the Northern Emirates, reducing the reliance on underground aquifers. Interestingly, the development of the plant has also been important to help raise awareness about water conservation and the importance of sustainable water practices. Public campaigns and educational initiatives have helped encourage a culture of resource consciousness among residents, which helps reduce demand, and it puts less pressure on the technical efforts to secure water. Number 5. Jubail Water and Power Company in Saudi Arabia. The Jubail Water and Power Company in Saudi Arabia is a leading player in the Middle East's water and energy sector, and it is known for operating one of the largest integrated water and power production facilities in the world. The Jubail Phase 1 facility was commissioned in 2010 as part of Saudi Arabia's move to privatize its water and power sectors. The project's managed by a consortium, a Saudi-based global corporation that specializes in water and power solutions, in collaboration with Gulf Investment Corporation and the Saudi Public Investment Fund. Now, this is a massive facility with an installed capacity to produce over 2,750 megawatts of electricity and 211 million gallons, or 800 million liters of desalinated water each day. The facility uses a cogeneration system where waste heat from power generation is recycled to drive the desalination process, which improves energy efficiency and reduces their operational costs. The desalination technique here mainly uses multi-effect distillation technology. Now, that's a thermal desalination method that involves heating seawater and using the vapor that's produced to evaporate additional seawater in successive stages, therefore minimizing its energy consumption. Now, the desalinated water produced by the plant is then distributed to major urban centers in Saudi Arabia, including the capital Riyadh, and it contributes hugely to meeting domestic water demands in the region. The electricity generated is mainly supplied to the national power grid, which gives a stable and reliable energy supply to the region. The integrated nature of this plant makes it a vital asset for Saudi Arabia, particularly in the eastern province. As part of the Jebel Industrial City, which is one of the world's largest and advanced industrial complexes, this plant also supplies all the businesses there with water and energy needed to support its operations, creating a symbiotic relationship of sorts that drives economic growth. The closeness of this plant to major industries also reduces transmission loss, making the entire system a bit more efficient. Since opening, it's been so successful and impactful that there are already plans for the development of subsequent expansions, including the Phase 2 plant, which will further improve the country's water and power production. Further, the company's also invested heavily in the development of its workforce, providing training programs and opportunities for local talent, which again aligns with Saudi Arabia's focus on human capital development under its Vision 2030 plans. Number 4. The Taweelah Desalination Plant in the UAE. The Taweelah plant is about 28 miles to the north of Abu Dhabi in the UAE, and it's a groundbreaking facility. As one of the largest desalination plants in the world, it's become hugely important to help handle the UAE's growing demand for potable water. It was commissioned in 2022. It's a state-of-the-art facility that uses reverse osmosis technology, which is a far more efficient method compared to traditional thermal desalination. It gives the plant a capacity of 240 million gallons, or about 900 million liters of water per day, which made it the largest singular reverse osmosis-based facility in the world when it first opened. The project had a relatively modest cost of around $870 million. For something that's such a key part of Abu Dhabi's water and electricity infrastructure, this has been seen as an investment that's well worth it. In line with the country's attempts to become more environmentally considerate, the facility is designed to source up to 20% of its energy requirements from solar power, making it a leading example of sustainable desalination at such a scale. This integration was necessary because of their Energy Strategy 2050, which aims to increase the share of clean energy in the national energy mix. Taweelah creates fresh water at a far lower energy cost than older designs are capable of, and their advanced brine management systems included so that the concentrated saline discharge is handled responsibly. This plant's contribution to the UAE goes beyond simply producing water, as it supports the country's economic growth by providing a reliable water supply to critical sectors such as industry, agriculture, and tourism. The success of the Taweelah project has established the UAE as a global leader in desalination technology, attracting attentions from other regions with similar challenges. It has, too, helped raise awareness about water conservation and sustainability. Also, by demonstrating the potential of combining advanced tech with renewable energy, this desalination plant has become an educational tool for policymakers, industry leaders, and the general public that shows how innovative approaches can address water scarcity. Number 3. The Fujairah Desalination Plant in the UAE. Alright, staying in the United Arab Emirates, the Fujairah plant, which is in the Emirate of Fujairah on the eastern coast of the UAE, is a major facility in the country's water network. Taking water from the Gulf of Oman, the Fujairah Desalination Plant is part of a larger complex that integrates water desalination and power generation. It was commissioned in 2004 and later expanded with the addition of Fujairah F2 in 2010. It's operated by Emirates Water and Electricity Company and developed in partnership with leading international companies. Now, Fujairah F1 uses a hybrid desalination approach, combining multi-stage flash distillation and reverse osmosis. MSF is a thermal desalination process that involves heating seawater and evaporating it in successive stages to separate salt and impurities, while reverse osmosis uses semi-permeable membranes to filter out dissolved salts under high pressure. This hybrid system allows the plant to produce high-quality potable water efficiently, and with Fujairah F2, the second phase of the project, this facility has a capacity of 264 million gallons, or almost a billion liters of water per day, and it produces 2,000 megawatts of electricity. As is the case with most modern facilities, Fujairah uses advanced energy recovery systems to reduce its energy consumption. Now, these systems capture and reuse energy from the desalination process, and which will lower carbon emissions and improve efficiency. And it's got some of the most advanced brine management procedures to limit the impact of its saline discharge. The site does supply several emirates, including Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and the Northern Emirates, making it a hugely valuable regional water hub. Now, while Fujairah F1 and F2 are already producing huge amounts of water, there are already plans to develop further with the construction of the F3 plant. This new structure will be one of the largest reverse osmosis-based desalination plants in the world, making use of the latest developments in technology. Number 2. The Jebel Ali Desalination Plant in the UAE. I think we're seeing a pattern with the UAE here. At the Jebel Ali plant, which is in Dubai in the UAE, is the largest and most important facility in the region, and it's one of the reasons that Dubai has been able to expand in the way that it's done in recent times. This site uses a combination of technologies to transform seawater from the Arabian Gulf into drinking water. Now, historically, the plants relied on multi-stage flash distillation, which has been a reliable choice for large-scale projects in the region because of its robust design and capacity. However, in recent years, DEWA has begun to introduce reverse osmosis technology into its operations. Now, the facility here at Jebel Ali is part of an integrated water and power production system, with the desalination plants located alongside the power stations. Now, this cogeneration model is a typical thing in the UAE's approach to desalination. Originally, it started as a much smaller facility. It's undergone several phases of expansion to keep pace with Dubai's growth. Its current capacity is more than 528 million gallons or 2 billion liters of potable water per day, meaning it can support Dubai's development projects, including its tourism sector, real estate developments, and industrial base. As is now usual with large-scale desalination plants, huge efforts have been put into brine management systems to control the impact of saline discharge on the marine ecosystems of the Arabian Gulf. Monitoring and regulatory measures also mean that the plant operates in compliance with international environmental standards. The Jebel Ali desalination plant has long been central to their water security, with its capacity ensuring resilience during any peak demand periods. The plant also supplies water to their vast storage facilities, which act as a reserve that can be used during times of emergency or supply disruptions. In line with Dubai's vision for a sustainable future, DEWA has also announced plans to further modernize this facility. This includes expanding the use of reverse osmosis and integrating renewable energy sources such as solar power to its power operations, all of which are part of the UAE's strategy under the Dubai Clean Energy Strategy 2050. That aims to transition to a more sustainable energy and water infrastructure. Number 1. The Ras Al Khair Desalination Plant in Saudi Arabia. The Ras Al Khair Desalination Plant on the eastern coast of Saudi Arabia is one of the largest advanced desalination facilities in the world. It's around 47 miles near the industrial city of Ras Al Khair. The plant is a critical part of their water infrastructure. It was commissioned in 2014. This plant was developed to meet the kingdom's dual needs for potable water and electricity. Now, they use multi-stage flash distillation and reverse osmosis here, and that uses thermal energy to evaporate seawater in multiple stages, and RO uses the high-pressure membranes we talked about earlier. By using these technologies side by side, the Ras Al Khair facility manages to improve its efficiency and flexibility in comparison to sites that just use one method. The plant has an amazing capacity with the ability to generate up to 271 million gallons or 1 billion liters of potable water per day. This output supplies drinking waters to millions of residents across Riyadh and other cities in the central region of Saudi Arabia. They're also a major power producer, generating 2,400 megawatts of electricity. The facility, of course, uses energy recovery systems in its reverse osmosis units to reduce energy consumption and operational costs. The Ras Al Khair desalination plant has also been specifically celebrated for its commitment to the environment. The facility has a brine management strategy to limit the impact of operations on the Arabian Gulf ecosystem, and instead of releasing it at separate sites like some places do, it dilutes it with seawater before releasing it in a way that minimizes any harm. As such a large facility, it's now become more than just a leading element of Saudi Arabia's infrastructure. It's established its role as a world leader in the field. The plant represents the kingdom's efforts to develop cutting-edge solutions to address water scarcity, which is currently a pressing issue in the Middle East. It's also a powerful example of how infrastructure developments like this can help supercharge local economic growth by creating jobs and supporting industries in the region. It supplies water and energy to facilities in Ras Al Khair Industrial City, including aluminum smelters and mining operations. Their success at the plant has inspired many other similar projects across Saudi Arabia and the wider region, and its approach to combining MSF and RO tech has shown other countries how desalination plants can reliably be built at scale. Thanks for having a drink of water with me, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you to our channel members.